So my talk is on should we teach ourselves, and one of the main things that I'm interested in is the desirable difficulties, and that's when certain difficulties are added into your learning and it's supposed to help you learn. So research for this stemmed from Robert Bjork, and he said that instead of making the way we process information being easy, he said we should try and make it deeper. So by adding in these difficulties, we're actually making our learning much better, because it's more kind of, we have to go through it more, we have to process the information, and we have to find out what's best, and from this we're learning at a deeper level. So like when we look at information in lectures, then we're only looking at the information shallower. And when looking at the learning pyramid, it says that we actually only retain 10%, less than 10% of the information we're given in lectures. So what are the point of lectures? Like, why are we sitting through them if we're not going to take in that much information? Should we be teaching it ourselves? Should we be going out there and looking for it? And that's what the learning pyramid says, because it says that if we go out there and we learn and we teach ourselves and teach other people, then if we're teaching someone else the information that we've processed, then we can learn to take in more than 90% of the information. So it makes our retention better if we're taking in the information and relaying it to someone else. So, but things like doing demonstrations, that can up your retention to 30%, because you're having to show someone else. Or even if in a lecture instead of just taking in the information, if you do a demonstration of the information you're taking in. So if in a PE lesson someone's trying to be taught, say, how to hit a hockey ball, instead of just being told and taught it and kind of just using words, they should use the hockey stick, show them how to do it, show them the position of the body, and kind of really instill it in them. And then when they've seen it and known the movements that their body needs to do, then they're more likely to take in some more of the information. And then again, retention goes up to 75% when you actually practice doing that. So you get 30% from just having a demonstration, but it goes up to 75% when you actually demonstrate doing it yourself. And then again, that can go back up to 90 if you then learn it yourself and then teach someone else, so then they know how to do it as well. So if lectures don't give us that much information, why do we sit through them? I suppose one of the reasons is because a lot of lectures can give us the inspiration to go and look into the information that we found interesting. We can go and find out more information about it, and then maybe teach ourselves little bits about it. But so yeah, if we didn't have those lectures, where would we know? How would we know where to look? Where would we know where the information is? And I suppose that's one of the key things in lectures that we do learn. So it might be that we have a very low retention of kind of what we've actually been taught, but from that we can then go and show. We can then go and do our own research and find out more about the certain topic. So I suppose another thing about lectures or teaching, especially in high schools, the teachers can often make learning too easy for people, and instead of kind of giving students things to go out and learn, they tend to just give them the information, so then they just have to take it in and then just say it over again and repeat it often, and then that's what's going in their exams. So they're not actually learning as much as they would be if they were going out and learning it for themselves. So teachers want to simplify the work so the students can just get on with it. But that may enhance short-term learning, but not necessarily long-term learning, because often the teachers will just plan the lesson to get the most out of the students, and it's usually the thing that's going to be easiest, because no one wants to sit through a lesson that they're going to find hard. So when desirable difficulties are added, it can often add in long-term retention becomes increased, because you are making the learning more difficult. You're having to go out, find the information, you're going to have to spend longer processing what information you've been given, and then it's being increased. So in terms of should we teach ourselves, well, maybe not necessarily, because we wouldn't make that learning harder for ourselves, which is something that they're saying here it would be a good thing. Because we often, when we're out doing our own learning, we don't like to make it difficult for ourselves. I think, especially with like the blogs and stuff, that wouldn't be necessarily what some people would choose. So by it being made more difficult, I think we are probably taking in more information because we're having to find out what we've got. So when these desirable difficulties have been added in, we need to make sure that they're not too hard, that we're not being pushed too far, that we don't want to do it at all. They need to be specific to this they need to be specific, and you need to make sure that the learner has enough kind of desire to want to be able to overcome it, because not a lot of the time people won't. So maybe in lectures, sometimes if a lecturer made the slides less clear, that can sometimes help with retention, because you're having to pay more attention to it. And I suppose it's not just us, because research by Cornell also showed that animals also avoid things that they can't do. So it's not just us. If we can't do something, we tend to avoid it, and animals also do this. So we look to do the things that we can do, and it was shown, he did some trials, and we opted out of the ones that we didn't know the answer to, but we often went back into the ones, we often were happy to complete the ones that we did know how to do. So we weren't pushing ourselves, and we stay within the confinements of what we already know. And this is something we really have to try and sort of push back. So, yeah, I think that's it. Thanks. Go for it.
You mentioned that, you said you think the reason that we go to lectures is because we do find them useful on occasion. Don't you think the biggest reason we go to lectures is because that's the only thing that's available, and we think somehow that's the only way we can learn?
Yeah.
It's been done that way for so long.
Yeah, we feel like we have to go, but then I suppose another thing, I know quite a few people kind of, you take inspiration from what you've learnt there and can kind of base it on that.
You said that we have to be careful not to too challenging towards children. Wouldn't that not be an issue if things were more open and kids could learn more at their own pace because of the way the questions are styled, rather than trying to put everyone on the entire class and
Sorry, I missed that last bit.
rather than trying to put the class all the same thing at the same level, and they're probably not going to be at exactly the same level. Some kids are going to find it challenging enough, and others will find it too challenging.
Yeah, so I suppose that's the thing where you've got to try and find what's right for the learner themselves, and you've got to try and make sure that it isn't too difficult, they don't want to do it, but also making sure that it isn't too easy for some people, because I suppose different people have different kind of feelings towards things. Like some people might find like the blog's really easy, and others might find it really difficult, but I suppose it's kind of making it more personal, or preference, I don't know.
Do you think it's important to have contact hours with the lecturer so that they can assign you a specific theme for you?
Yeah, definitely. I think the lectures are very good in terms of, kind of giving you that specificness and things, but...
Was that from this class? It ain't happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think one of the reasons that kids could be switched off in lessons isn't because it's too challenging, but more because it's not engaging. Like they did a study a couple of years ago that said that when students doodle, they're actually more likely to retain the information because they're less likely to date.
Yeah, I don't really know. Yeah, sorry.
We don't have all the answers.